Hello, my name is Darren Thomas and I am the Director of Educational Research Techniques. In this particular video, we're going to be going over some tools that you can use for using regular expressions in R. In particular, we're going to be using the stringr package and looking at some of the different ways that you can utilize the commands in this particular package for your own personal use. So let's go ahead and see what we can learn. So I'm now inside RStudio, and I'm just going to start by loading my stringr package. Normally it kind of comes with RStudio with R, so normally you don't have to install it, but it may be necessary on your device. Next, we're just going to set up a basic vector with some words inside it, and what we're going to be doing here is we're going to be exploring this particular vector by using different functions from the stringr package to isolate different things we want to know. This will make more sense when you see it, but let me go ahead and run this. Now we're going to start with symbols, and we're going to learn about how to deal with things when they start with a particular letter. So let me go ahead and paste this code in for you so you can see it. And so what we're doing here is we're taking our vector called people, and we're going to do a subset. In other words, we're going to pull particular things from this vector based on what is inside the brackets here. So we're using the function called string detect, or str_detect. We're putting our vector inside this because we're detecting things from here. And so that's people. And then we have a pattern here. Now this caret sign means begins with something. So we want to try to pull every particular word inside this particular vector that begins with the letter B. So if you look up here at our actual vector here, you can see all of our different names inside the vector: Bob, Brad, Dan, Jason, Tony, and Tom. So when I run the code in line 6, I should get back Bob and Brad because those are the only two data points inside this vector that begin with the letter B. So we're going to go ahead and run this. And you can see in the output, we got back Bob and Brad. Now, again, the power of regular expressions is when, of course, you have a lot of data and you're looking for specific things. And so in this case, I was looking for anything that begins with the letter B, and I was able to pull that like so. Now, let's go to our next one. We're going to look at stuff that ends with something. And of course, now we're going to use a slightly different code here. So notice this time, we're looking for, all this is pretty much the same all right here. The only thing that's new is right here. So I got an N and a dollar sign. The dollar sign is telling my function to find all of my data points that end with the letter N. N as in, Nancy or nothing, whatever you want to call it. So if I run this correctly, it looks like I should end up with 2 words that end with N, and that's going to be Dan and Jason. Let's see. All right, we got it. So when we subset people using this function here and this pattern N dollar sign, we got the 2 words that end with the letter N as in Nancy, which is Dan and Jason. Let's keep going here. Now the next one is going to be, it's kind of like for anything. And again, this will make more sense when you see it. So again, all of this here at the beginning is the same, but notice this, we have these periods in here. Periods means find anything that has the letter A inside it. Now, just to be honest, I don't have to put the first period. This is just to complete the thought. So there could be any letter or any number before A, and there could be any letter or any number after A in this particular example. And so if we do that, let's see here. We should get back, looks like Brad, Dan, and Jason, because those are the only ones that have an A inside it somewhere. So remember, the period stands for, anything after it or anything after it as an example. So let's take a look at this. You can see Brad, Dan, and Jason. And just for formality's sake, you don't need that initial period. And so if you leave that out, you see you get the same thing. So basically the period means find anything that contains an A. That's pretty much what it means. And so you can see I got back my 3 names that contain the letter A somewhere inside it. All right, let's keep going. Next, we're going to be looking at some character classes here. This will make more sense in a second, but I need to create a new vector in order to make this thought work. So now I created a vector. The only thing that's different here is that I put some numbers in there towards the end rather than only having names. And so that'll make more sense in a second. Now, the first thing we're going to do is we're just going to find digits. And so, whoops, let me fix this. All right, so what we're doing here is we're using a different function this time. str, string match all, basically. And notice how we're not subsetting this time. That's not necessary in this case. And we're taking our new vector, people underscore and underscore numbers. And this looks like, I think that's a backslash, I believe. You have two of these. And then you have the D. This is the letter D. This is telling us to find anything that has a digit. So let's go ahead and see what happens. Now, notice our output here. It's a little bit unique. So this one is referring to the first data point inside the vector. You can see we have nothing because that's Brad. There's no, or excuse me, that's Bob. There are no digits in the vector or the phrase Bob. Same thing with number 2. That's referring to Brad. Nothing here. Number 3 is referring to Dan. Nothing here. But notice with 4, 5, and 6, we have a 1, 2, and a 3. That is pulling these numbers right here, respectively. And that's what's happening. So the string match all function gives you a list. And it shows you where the different data points inside your vector meet the criteria that you set. Let's go ahead and take a look at another one. Now we're going to find word characters. So this could be anything, basically. It could be a number. It could be a letter, whatever. And so notice everything is the same here, except now we have those 2 backward slashes, I believe, with the W. W means word character. Now, notice carefully. For our first data point, Bob, notice how it splits apart all 3 letters associated with that first data point, Bob. And it splits apart, again, all the letters associated with Brad. That is our second name. Then Dan, and then down here we have our numbers 1, 2, and 3. So this time, anything that's a word character is going to be pulled. All right, so we didn't have any special symbols inside our vector here. That's why everything is pulled this time. Let's keep going. Now we're going to find letters. And then after that, we will do vowels. This will make sense in a second. Okay, notice everything's the same up here. But now we have this A through Z and then A through Z again. And notice how it's inside brackets. This is telling the function to find anything that has letters in it. So now this is different from word characters because word characters can include numbers. Now we're only going to find letters. So we just do this. And if you look at our output, it pulled Bob, it pulled Brad, it pulled Dan. But notice how all of the data points that are associated with numbers, the 1, 2, and the 3, these are empty because the numbers 1, 2, and 3, they're not letters. So that's why it's not here. Next, we're going to pull vowels. I think this should be pretty clear how this works. And so now everything's the same, but notice what we have inside brackets, A, E, I, O, U. And so now it's only going to pull things that have vowels inside it. So let's see how it looks. Okay, so notice here from, what's our first? Bob, from Bob, it pulled the O. The B, the 2 B's are gone. From Brad, it pulled the A. From Dan, it pulled the A. And our numbers, they're all blank because numbers are not vowels. So you can see, again, when you're going through a lot of data, you can pull things quickly. You can isolate things. You can subset things very, very fast using whatever particular criteria you might have. Now we're going to wrap this up by taking a look at repetition, where we can limit how many times R might find something based on a particular criteria. Again, this will make sense when you see it. We're going to be using the same function. And so now you can see here, we're telling it to find something a maximum 2 times, excuse me. So word characters, and then find it 2 times. We put this inside curly braces. So again, this is hard to understand. Let's just take a look at it. So what happened here? It pulled the first 2 word characters from the word Bob. And then what did it do here? It pulled the first two word characters of Brad, and then it did it again the second time. Now the reason the B from Bob is missing is because it has to appear exactly 2 times. So since B is only 1 time, it is by itself, it was left off. But Brad, because it's a 4-letter word, we pulled the BR, and that became like the first part of the list, and then we pulled the AD as the second part. Dan is only a 3-letter word, so again, it pulls the first 2, but there's no second entrance, a second part. And then for our numbers, 1, 2, and 3, the numbers, even though they're word characters, the number 1 was only 1 word character, ignored. The number 2 is only 1 word character, ignored, etc. Like that. Let's take a look at our next one here. We're going through the same process. Okay, now this time we're looking for things that are 3, a maximum up to 4 characters, because we're still using the word character option here. All right, so notice this, Bob is 3, so that's why it got pulled. Brad is 4, that's why it also got pulled. Dan was 3, so it got pulled, but the number 1 is only 1 character, so it's not pulled. The number 2 was only 1 word character, so it was not pulled, etc. So let's do another one. Our next one here, this is going to be, now it could be 4 or more. So anything 4 or more, it could be up to, I don't know, however many characters that R can handle, but let's just run this. Okay, so now you can see it has to be at least 4 or more. So Bob doesn't count. Brad is 4, so it's in. What's the other one? Dan doesn't count. The number 1, the number 2, the number 3 are not there because those are only 1 word character each. All right, we got 2 more. Okay, let's take a look at this one, the plus sign. Whoops, excuse me. Okay, so what's happening with the plus sign? The plus sign is telling us as many as possible, I believe. So that's what's happening there. And so it is telling us exactly how many words meet a certain particular criteria. That's what it's doing. So let me just go ahead and see if I can tell you exactly what this means. 1 or more repetitions. So it could be 1 or more, doesn't matter. So that's what the plus sign means. So next we got 1 more. Here's our last one. And so this is what the asterisk, and what the asterisk says is 0 or 1 or more repetitions. So again, for this one, you can see that it just kind of pulls you the same information. So Bob, and then there's nothing else there. Brad, 1 or more repetitions, that's it. They all meet that criteria. And so this is what you use to find lots of different things that you're searching for when you're trying to use regular expressions. The trickiest thing about regular expressions is remembering all of the different options. That's really what's challenging here. So if we were going to review this, when you're dealing with regular expressions, the caret sign means it begins with something. So in our example right here, it starts with B. The dollar sign means it ends with something. So in this example, it ends with N. So again, the tricky thing is to remember what the caret stands for, what the dollar sign stands for. When you're dealing with the period, it means anything that contains whatever is in front of it. So in this case, the letter A, anything that contains A. So this is the stuff that's tricky. The backslash, the 2 backslash with the D stands for digits. So for this example, I'm pulling anything that has digits, like 1, 2, 3. 2 backslashes with a W, word character, any word character. Things you put inside brackets are whatever you can customize these. So in this example in line 18, I have all capital letters, all lowercase letters. Now notice how I don't have to put a comma between these. That's going to throw a lot of people. It's not necessary. In the next example, I'm looking for only vowels. And then for these right here, these are for repetitions. So no more than 2. Anything 3 or 4. 4 or more in line 24. 1 repetition or 0 to 1 repetitions. That's what's happening there. And so you can see that there's a lot going on here, and you have to just try to understand what exactly it is you're looking for so that you can use the regular expressions in order to have success. So I want to thank you so much for watching. My name is Darren Thomas. I am the Director of Educational Research Techniques. You have a great day and take care.